putting yourself into the position of the Russian troops, do you think they'll have even heard about the Operation Spider's Web and the attack on the Kerish Bridge? And if they had heard about it, do you think it will affect their morale from a negative perspective?
I can tell you definitely that it did, because I'm monitoring Russian Telegram channels, all different sorts of their communities, several Russian bloggers, and I can say that they were not even shocked. I don't know what kind of word to find to describe this. Threatening to nuke the world for that, calling that a terrorist attack on peaceful Russian bombers peacefully parked on the ramps of Alenia, and it's so funny to read that. First thing is calling this attack like a terrorist act which caused absolutely zero casualties among civilians, among military personnel, unfortunately. But calling this a terrorist attack is absolutely Russian style, just call everything terrorists, call everybody Nazi, and eventually.
Yeah, it's interesting. Vladimir Putin was quoted in his response to saying, Ukraine attacked our air bases where Russian strategic bombers are located. They proved that there can be no peaceful solution. They've prepared their own end with this action. There'll be no more red line. They will regret what they did. What do you think Putin's response is going to be? Because he hasn't really done anything at the moment. Is he caught in this position where he doesn't know how to respond because he's been shocked by the actions, thinking that, as Donald Trump said, President Zelensky had no more cards to play? Well, I think he's not only played some very good cards, he's played a winning hand and seems to have lots of other winning hands ready to go at the same time. Is Putin scared?
I think that Putin realizes that he should ramp up his informational warfare on the first place in Europe to make sure that Ukraine is being portrayed as a corrupted terrorist state. That is what we will see 100%. In terms of military, in terms of combat operations, I don't think that a lot will change, because Russia is fighting at its maximum capacity at this very point. People who think that Russia has not even started fighting, and there are such people, Colonel McGregor and Tucker Carlson.
I don't listen to him. He talks complete garbage.
Yeah, but they believe that Russia didn't even start fighting for real. So it's already kind of funny, but the fact is, reality, Russia is using everything they have. They throw all sorts of old machinery, old vehicles taken from their old stockpiles. If Russia didn't start fighting for real yet, then why does Russia buy artillery shells in North Korea, and why does it buy drones made from plastic and duct tape from Iran? Of course, we understand that it's nonsense. Russia is fighting at its max capacity right now, making zero to none progress for years, because the front line has been pretty much stationary since 2023, I would say. And of course, what Russia can do is Russia can make big show out of tiny achievements. Bakhmut city that is 7 kilometers across. Not sure, like 4 miles, something like 4 miles.
Yeah,
right?
Just 4.5 miles. It's tiny.
Yeah, but according to Russian media, basically Berlin starts behind, behind Bakhmut, New York, Washington. After Bakhmut, we can take the world. Bakhmut, Solidar, it's a village. Avdiivka is a big village, and Ukraine is second largest country in Europe. So basically, the front line has been more or less stationary for the past years. Ukraine managed to stop Russian invaders, and Ukraine helps Russia to burn
Hmm.
a lot of their healthy men on the front lines. Ukraine strikes Russia and Russian personnel with enormous amount of drones nowadays, and we have so many of them, so we even export them abroad. Um, One very, very interesting update that I've heard recently was that a new 155 millimeter shell factory was almost completed in Ukraine,
Hmm.
and it will be launched very, very soon, which is again very good news for Ukrainian defenders.
Um, I think the Ukrainian military and special forces and intelligence services have been busy over the last few days. We've had the strike on the Kerish Bridge yesterday, and that's the third time since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine just over 3 years ago. And whilst the actual damage is unclear, the SBU carried out a fantastic information operation alongside it by saying that this was the first detonation, a masterstroke in information operations. And while Western officials and open source analysts continue to try and clarify, the damage that could have happened to the bridge and the damage that's happened to the Russian long-range bombers that there was that audacious SBU attack against, using drones all over Russia, Operation Spider's Web on June the 1st. You know, the secondary impacts are beginning to hit, with the paralyzing of Russian logistics, every truck being searched. You're closer than we are here to the understanding of these operations. Talk us through your thoughts on how they were executed and the military and psychological impact that there's been on the Russians in particular.
Well, one thing that I would like to talk about is, people think that all those operations happened all of a sudden, in just several days we have all those amazing strikes and party on the Russian air bases and the Kerish Bridge. But the reality is the very operation, Spiderweb, took approximately 1.5 years, one year and 9 months to be implemented. So basically, this operation was prepared since 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And since 2023, I believe that it wasn't the only operation that was prepared by the Ukrainian intelligence and secret services. So they are busy constantly, all the time, planning and implementing those operations. There were several very successful eliminations of Russian high-ranking generals, as well as
Mm-hmm.
Russian war criminals that we could observe on the Russian territory. Of course, different operations, based on the complexity of them. They take much more time to implement. But it's very interesting, when you think about it, 2023, when Russia started massively bombing Ukrainian energy infrastructure, that is already when the high command realized that we need to deal with the Russian bombers. And that time, we didn't really have capacity to strike their air bases located so far from Ukraine. Some of them located thousands of kilometers away from Ukrainian border. And even though we had several long-range drones, but apparently the choice was made to use the shorter-range drones that
Yep.
cannot be intercepted by the Russian air defense. So that is very interesting to think about it. 2023, the situation back then when Russia was hitting Ukrainian infrastructure with their cruise missiles really bad. And to try to understand the logic behind the launching of this operation and how it was implemented, and literally took a little less than 2 years to make it happen. I believe that we will see a lot of things like that in the future because, again, Russian atrociousness that was launched on Ukraine, it was disturbing. It was disturbing, and I think it motivated our higher command to conduct such operations on the Russian territory, targeting specifically Russian military objects. and making sure that they are unable to strike us back. I believe that soon we will see more.
Yeah, no, the attacks that are going on across Russia are fantastic, and we'll come on to those, I think, in some further questions. But so that people understand, the attack yesterday was against the Kerish Bridge. This is the third attack. How important is the Kerish Bridge to the Russians from a military perspective, but also from a psychological perspective, and how symbolic is it as a target to Ukraine?
Annexation of Crimea was a big morale boost to the Russian population back in those days, because it was one of their, I'm not even sure how to call it, one of their biggest victories, right,
Hmm.
in their war against the West. And in my opinion, if they lose Crimea, of course, it will be a devastating blow, not only politically to Russia, but also psychologically and from the standpoints of morale of the people, of Russian citizens. But again, doesn't belong to them and never will. The importance of this strategic peninsula is extremely high, because Russia has plenty of military bases there, even though they cannot use their Black Sea fleet much these days for obvious reasons. But still, this place historically allocated a lot of Russian military, their intelligence. There's a lot of bases used for intelligence, for collecting data, radio electronic intelligence, and things like that. A lot of very, very important facilities. And also, this place is currently being used as a big military hub. They constantly deliver different supplies to Crimea, personnel, weaponry, vehicles, and those later travel to their forces in Kherson, forces located around Zaporizhia, where we know that they're trying to develop their new attack. So it's very, very important to them. So destruction of this bridge will, of course, be again a devastating blow, also to Putin himself, because Putin made this bridge kind of his own project. We all saw him like driving a truck or a car down that bridge when it just opened. And one specific thing that we should consider about it is that it consists of two parts. There's automobile part of this bridge used by the cars, and there's of course the railway. So the railway is the primary target. When it was hit for the first time, 2023, I believe, we remember that the automobile part of this bridge, several sections collapsed, but they were not really crucial, because the railway is crucial. Russia relies on the railway really, really hard. So this is the primary target. And of course, if it's destroyed, it will be a big and I would not call it a devastating blow, but it will be a very, very, very big impact, considering Russia military presence in Crimea and their capacity of delivering their supplies to other spans of the front line.